Before you were born into this body, you existed. Before this life, there were others, countless others. Each one a lesson, each one a step. The ancient sages of India and the Buddhist masters knew something that modern science is only beginning to touch. The soul does not live once. It evolves, slowly, across thousands of years. They mapped it. They gave it a name. They called it the age of the soul. And just as a child grows into an adult, the soul too passes through stages. Each stage with its own desires, its own fears, its own vision of God. Why does one person live only for survival and another for love? Why does one chase power and wealth while another seeks silence and meaning? The answer is not in their circumstances. It is in the age of their soul. Tonight, we will look at 5 ages of the soul, from the very first breath on earth to the last great liberation. Where are you on this journey? The answer may surprise you. Imagine the very first time, the very first incarnation, a soul brand new to this earth. It has never been here before. It does not know the rules. It does not know the dangers. It knows only one thing: it is alive. The ancient Indian tradition calls this the infant soul, the youngest stage of spiritual evolution, a soul that has just arrived on the great wheel of incarnation. Everything here is new. Everything here is overwhelming. And the only question that matters is survival. The infant soul incarnates in the most primitive conditions available, deep in ancient forests, in remote tribal communities far from civilization, in places where every single day is a negotiation with death. And in this negotiation, the soul learns its first and most essential lesson: survival. How to keep the body warm, how to find food, how to protect the young. These are not small lessons. For a soul that has never lived on earth before, they are everything. The body itself is a mystery. Pain is a mystery. Hunger is a mystery. The soul is learning, simply, what it means to be human. The infant soul has a relationship with the divine, but it is unlike anything we might recognize today. God is not a loving father. God is not an inner light. God is the sun, the storm, the flood, the volcano. God is raw power, unpredictable and terrifying. And the only response is to offer something, to appease, to ask for mercy. This is not superstition. This is the soul's first attempt to understand the forces that govern its existence. Feed the gods, and perhaps they will not destroy you. Honor the river, and perhaps it will not flood your home. It is a theology of fear, and fear is where every soul must begin. And yet, do not mistake simplicity for emptiness. Look at the cave paintings left behind by these earliest souls. They did not only draw what they hunted, they drew what they dreamed. They drew what they feared. They drew what filled them with awe. The first spark of inner life pressed into stone for eternity. In the language of the chakras, the infant soul lives entirely within the first energy center, the Muladhara, the root chakra. Deep red, located at the base of the spine. It is the chakra of the earth, of physical existence, of the primal will to live. The infant soul leaves its mark, simple, unself-conscious, completely honest. And somewhere in the great invisible record of the cosmos, this first journey is noted. The first step has been taken. The soul will return, older, ready, and carrying, without knowing it, the seeds of everything it is yet to become. Something has changed. The soul has returned, but it is different now. The raw terror of pure survival has softened. A new need has emerged, not just to stay alive, but to belong. To be part of something larger than oneself, to know the rules, to follow them, and to be accepted by those who follow them too. The ancient tradition calls this the child soul, the second great stage of spiritual evolution. And just like a human child, this soul finds its deepest security not in independence, but in belonging, in structure, in knowing exactly where it stands within the group. Religion becomes everything to the child soul, not as a personal spiritual journey, but as a communal code, a set of rules handed down from above. God is still not close. God is still not warm. But God now has a structure, a church, a temple, a holy book. And the child soul finds enormous comfort in that structure. Authority is sacred to the child soul. The priest, the elder, the chief, the king. These figures do not simply hold power, they hold meaning. They are the interpreters of a divine order that the child soul feels in its bones, but cannot yet articulate for itself. To question authority is not just dangerous, it is unthinkable. The child soul now awakens the second energy center, the Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra, located just below the navel, orange as a flame. This is the chakra of belonging, of tribal bonds, of the deep human need to be part of a community, a family, a people. For the child soul, to be cast out of the group is a fate worse than death. Family is the sacred center of the child soul's world. Not the romantic partner, not the career, not the personal dream. The family, the lineage, the bloodline. Honor your ancestors. Care for your children. Maintain the traditions that have been passed down. These are not suggestions. They are the laws of existence. Tradition is not merely habit for the child soul. It is a lifeline, a rope connecting the living to the dead, to the ancestors who built everything the community stands on. To break tradition is to cut that rope. And without that rope, who are you? Where do you come from? What holds you to the earth? The shadow of the child soul is fear, a deep, pervasive, unspoken fear of being different, of being wrong, of being cast out. This fear keeps the soul loyal, but it also keeps it small, rigid, closed. The child soul does not ask, "Is this rule good?" It asks only, "Is this the rule?" And if the answer is yes, it obeys, without question, without doubt. And yet, within these boundaries, the child soul knows a happiness that is rare and genuine. The joy of the harvest feast, the warmth of the communal fire, the deep satisfaction of a life lived according to the values of the tribe. There is beauty here, real beauty, the beauty of belonging completely to something greater than yourself. But eventually, something stirs that the village cannot contain. A restlessness, a hunger that no feast can satisfy, a question that no elder can answer. The soul begins to look beyond the boundary of the known world, beyond the village, beyond the tradition, beyond the rule. And in that first dangerous glance toward the horizon, the child's soul begins to grow into something the tribe has never seen before.
Something has broken open. The village is too small. The rules are too tight. The horizon has been calling, and now the soul has answered. It steps out of the tribe, out of the tradition, out of the comfortable darkness of belonging, and for the first time, it stands alone, blinking in the bright and brutal light of the world. The ancient tradition calls this the young soul, and the name is precise, because this soul behaves exactly like a young person who has just left home for the first time, full of energy, full of confidence, absolutely certain it knows how the world works, and absolutely determined to conquer it. The young soul awakens the third energy center, the Manipura, the solar plexus chakra, blazing yellow gold, located at the center of the abdomen. This is the chakra of will, of personal power, of the burning desire to act, to achieve, to leave a mark on the world. For the young soul, this fire is everything. The young soul is the great builder of civilization, the merchant, the conqueror, the inventor, the politician. Wherever there is ambition, wherever there is competition, wherever someone is fighting to be first, to be best, to be remembered, you will find the young soul burning at the center of it. The world, says the young soul, is a competition, a great arena. And in this arena there are only two kinds of people, winners and losers, the strong and the weak, those who take and those who are taken from. This is not cruelty, this is simply how the young soul understands reality. And within that understanding, it is magnificently, ferociously alive. Success for the young soul is always visible, always measurable. The size of the palace, the number of servants, the weight of the gold, the scale of the empire. Because the young soul does not yet trust anything it cannot see or touch or count. The invisible world, the world of the spirit, holds no interest. Not yet. That comes later. Much later. Do not think the young soul is without gifts. Quite the opposite. The young soul is extraordinarily productive. It builds cities. It invents technologies. It composes symphonies, not out of love for beauty, but out of the desire to be the greatest composer who ever lived. The motivation is ego, but the result can be genuinely magnificent. But the shadow of the young soul runs deep. In its hunger for power, it does not always stop to ask, at what cost? Whose suffering paid for this victory? Whose land was taken? Whose family was broken? The young soul is not evil. It simply does not yet have the emotional depth to feel the full weight of its actions on others. That depth must be earned. And then, something unexpected happens. The young soul wins. It achieves everything it set out to achieve. The power, the wealth, the fame, the empire. And sitting at the very peak of everything it has built, it feels something it never anticipated. Emptiness. A silence at the center of all the noise. A question rising slowly from somewhere very deep. Is this all there is? That question is the beginning of everything. Because the soul that has won everything and still feels empty is a soul that is ready to grow. ready to ask a different kind of question. Not, how do I win? But, why does winning feel like this? And in that question, the young soul takes its first trembling step toward becoming something the world has rarely seen. A soul that has learned to feel. Something fundamental has shifted. The hunger for conquest has faded. The thrill of victory has grown hollow. And in the silence left behind, a new and unfamiliar feeling begins to rise. Not ambition, not fear. Something softer, something that catches the soul completely off guard. The first genuine stirring of the heart. The ancient tradition calls this the mature soul. And the word mature is chosen with great care, because this is the soul that has finally, after countless lifetimes of building and conquering and accumulating, turned its attention inward, toward the invisible world, toward other people, toward the terrifying and beautiful complexity of genuine human relationship. The mature soul awakens the fourth energy center, the anahata, the heart chakra, deep emerald green, the color of living things, located at the center of the chest. This is the chakra of love, of empathy, of the capacity to feel another person's pain as your own. For the mature soul, opening this center is the great work of a lifetime. Perhaps many lifetimes. The mature soul is drawn irresistibly toward art, toward music, toward poetry, toward any form of expression that can carry what ordinary language cannot. Because the mature soul is experiencing something for the first time, emotions so complex and so layered that the only possible response is to make something, to press the feeling into form, and to offer it to the world. The mature soul gravitates toward the healing professions, the teacher, the physician, the counselor, the priest who truly listens. Not because these roles bring power or wealth, but because they bring something the mature soul craves above all else: genuine connection. The moment when one human being truly sees another and is truly seen in return. But the shadow of the mature soul is equally profound, because a soul that has learned to love has also learned to suffer. And the mature soul suffers deeply. Relationships become everything, and when they fail, the pain is not merely emotional, it is existential. Without love, who am I? Without this person, what is the point of any of it? This is the dark night that the mature soul must learn to survive. The mature soul is the great sufferer of the soul ages, not because life treats it worse than others, but because it feels everything more deeply than others. This sensitivity is both its greatest gift and its most demanding teacher. The mature soul thinks deeply, perhaps too deeply. It circles the great questions of existence with an intensity that can become consuming. What is the meaning of suffering? Is love ever truly unconditional? Can one human being ever really know another? And then, in the depth of the suffering, something opens. A moment of grace that cannot be explained or predicted. A sudden stillness at the center of the storm. A sense, fleeting but unmistakable, that there is something beyond the personal drama. Something vast and quiet and completely trustworthy. The mature soul catches its first glimpse of what lies beyond the heart. The mature soul has loved deeply, has suffered deeply, has created and connected and lost and grieved, and loved again. And somewhere in the accumulated weight of all that feeling, a new kind of hunger awakens. Not for another person, not for another relationship, but for something that cannot be lost. Something that does not depend on anyone else. The soul has climbed far through fear, through the tribe, through burning ambition, through love and the breaking of the heart. And now, for the first time, it stops and feels that it is not alone, that it never was. The ancient tradition calls this the old soul. The old soul no longer prays out of fear, it prays out of love, because it knows God is not distant. God is not punishment. God is the light that was always burning, even in the moments when the soul itself had gone dark. The old soul awakens the seventh energy center, the Sahasrara, the crown chakra, violet, dissolving into pure white light. Here, the soul is no longer separate from God. It exists within God. The old soul does not seek God. It rests in Him. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. Every tree, every breath of wind, every bird song speaks the same language, the language of the divine. The old soul serves not out of duty, but out of a love that flows through it like a spring. It knows that every person it touches is God in another form. And every act of compassion is a prayer without words. The old soul sees every person as they truly are, not as they appear. It sees the spark of God in everyone, even where others see only darkness, especially there. The old soul lives in two worlds at once. It looks at the stars and knows that it is made of the same light. The earth is not exile. It is the final page of God's gift, and the soul is here to read it to the very end. The old soul has learned the hardest lesson of all, to let go. Not out of indifference, but out of deep trust in God. The old soul no longer searches for God in churches or in books. It has found Him where He always was, within. And in that silence, deeper than thought, deeper than feeling, it hears His voice, quiet, constant, loving. And when the old soul completes its journey, it does not die. It returns, like a river returning to the ocean, like a flame returning to the light. It was always a part of God. And now, it knows this, completely, forever. We have walked through 5 ages, 5 great chapters of the soul's long journey. And perhaps, as you listened, something stirred, a recognition, a quiet inner voice that said, yes, that one. That is where I am. Or perhaps, that is where I have been. If so, trust that feeling. The soul always knows its own age, even when the mind does not. The ancient teachers offered a simple test. Simply this. Where do you spend most of your time? And where do you spend most of your money? The answer will tell you more about the age of your soul than any book ever written. There is something the ancient teachers were very clear about, and it must be said carefully, because the mind will want to rank these ages, to place them in a hierarchy of better and worse. But the tradition is unambiguous. No soul age is superior. No soul age is inferior. Each one carries his own beauty, its own purpose, its own irreplaceable gifts to the world. We do not blame the seed for not being a forest. We do not criticize the sapling for not yet giving shade. Every stage of growth is necessary. The infant soul is not a failed old soul, doing exactly what an infant soul is here to do. And the cosmos is endlessly patient with every single stage. Look around you, at the people in your life. The colleague who drives everyone mad with his relentless ambition, he is not broken. He is a young soul doing what young souls do. The friend who cannot stop crying over a relationship that ended 2 years ago, she's not weak. She is a mature soul learning what mature souls must learn. Everyone is exactly where they need to be. But here is what the ancient tradition also says, and this is perhaps the most important thing of all. You cannot rush the soul. You cannot take a shortcut from the child soul to the old soul by reading the right books or attending the right retreats. The soul ages through living, through choosing, through suffering the consequence of those choices, through loving and losing and returning, and trying again. The soul's journey is like a river. It begins as a wild and urgent mountain stream, crashing over rocks, going wherever gravity takes it. Gradually it deepens, slows, widens, learns to move around obstacles rather than through them, and eventually it reaches the ocean. Not with a crash, but with a quiet and luminous dissolving into something infinitely larger than itself. How old is your soul? The answer is already within you. It has always been within you. Written not in years, but in what moves you, in what breaks you open, in what you cannot stop returning to, no matter how many times life pulls you away. Listen to that. Trust that. Because that quiet inner knowing is not just the age of your soul speaking. It is your soul itself, reminding you that the journey is not yet over, and that the best is still to come. Thank you for walking this path with me tonight. If something in this video touched you, if a word or an image landed somewhere deep, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you are ready to go deeper, the next step on this journey is already waiting.